Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a video on the top 10 best builds in Diablo 2 Resurrected going into patch 2.4 and ladder start. So if you're trying to pick a build to play in this coming ladder season, or you just want to know how your chosen build stacks up, this video should help you out. And if you're looking for guides on how to run these builds, what skills to take, what gear to take, we're going to have links to max roll guides in the video description for all of these builds. They got you covered. This video is brought to you in collaboration with Diablo 2 expert Tio from Max Roll. Now obviously picking best builds can be highly subjective. Some build might have one super specialized purpose and it's the best at that purpose, and we factor that in, but overall this is going to be more of a holistic look at the builds as a whole. How versatile are they and how strong are they, all things considered. And I encourage you folks to sound off in the comments with your own list of best builds. Are there any that should have made it onto our list? Are there any that don't deserve to be on this list? Let's hear it. You can also feel free to reference the timestamps in the video description in case you just want to skip to number 1. Now, before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Bespoke Post, which is a free-to-join monthly membership club that delivers these awesome boxes of high-quality goods from lesser-known brands. They buy 90% of the products in their boxes from small businesses, many of which are based in the United States. As a member, you'll get introduced to cool products based on your preferences, and you'll be offered a box that contains about $70 worth of stuff. But you'll only have to pay a fraction of that cost. And you can preview your box before it's shipped. You get to decide whether you want to keep that box, or swap to a different box, or skip that month's box altogether free of charge. I've gotten 3 boxes from them so far. I got the chop box, which includes a Chinese vegetable cleaver and an Alaskan ulu knife. I do a lot of cooking and I've always just used one chef's knife for all my cutting, but I wanted to spoil myself and get some sexy specialized blades. I love the ulu knife for mincing garlic and herbs. I got the Scorch box because I love my hot sauces, and this introduced me to 6 new and diverse hot sauces, ranging in spiciness and flavor. They all have their uses, but this ghost pepper sauce is my favorite because it had these berry notes to it that was really surprising. And I got the Cask Spirit Aging Kit, which makes for a great prop for my Dungeons & Dragons sessions and a great way to add a nice aged oak taste to fine spirits. And there are a bunch of other boxes as well. The smoked box, for instance, looks really fun. It's a cocktail smoking kit. To get 20% off your first box, click the link in the description and use code Rhykker at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com/Rhykker. Alright, coming in at number 10, we have the Smite Paladin, aka the Smiter. The Smiter excels at killing bosses, especially the uber bosses. In fact, it's the best build for farming Hellfire torches. He relies on the power of the skill Smite, which deals a huge amount of single target damage with an attack that never misses. And he's buffed by the Fanaticism aura, which buffs damage and attack speed, and then it stacks even more attack speed to just attack blindingly fast. And then you're stacking Crushing Blow to deal huge chunks of damage with every hit. On top of that, the Smiter is also incredibly tanky. He can stack a ton of resistance on his gear, cannot be frozen, and then Holy Shield grants a huge defense buff, a lot of block chance. Combine that with incredible sustain through Dracul's Grasp Gloves, which have a 5% chance to cast Life Tap, and that's a skill that makes you leech back 50% of the physical damage you deal as healing, and this is a physical build. So you're doing physical damage, 5% chance, but you're attacking so freaking fast that you're gonna have a lot of uptime on that Life Tap, and therefore you're going to be regaining health very quickly. The Smiter has cheap starting gear with great late game options for gearing. So why is he only make number 10 on this list? Well, outside of farming Ubers, he doesn't have a lot to offer. This isn't the build you're going to use for general farming, but for the Ubers, number 1. That takes us to number 9, the Berserk Barbarian, aka the Zerker. Arguably the best barbarian build in the game. There's no better build for elite hunting. Once this guy's fully geared, he can teleport as fast as a sorceress with an Enigma, while stacking an unmatched amount of magic find. Then you combine that with the barbarian's find item skill, which basically lets you yell at a corpse for a chance to get a second loot drop from the body, and you get a build that is incredible at farming ultra rare, unique set, and rare items. And then when the champion, unique, or super unique monsters that you're hunting are surrounded by minions, the Zerker uses the Howl skill to make them just run away, clearing the area so you can take on your target one-on-one, mano a mano. Mano a Monstro, and the Berserk skill itself deals magic damage, so it's very rare to encounter an enemy that you cannot kill. Berserker performs well in most farming runs, but it's the best build at farming the Pit, and it's also amazing at farming Pindleskin and the newly buffed Stony Tomb. This, however, is not a build for early game, because it takes quite a gear investment to get a Zerker going. So on to number 8. The Fisher Druid, aka the Fire Druid. This is an easy to learn but difficult to master build that's great at just burning down hordes of demons with the Fisher skill. This build excels in places like the Secret Cow level, the Flayer Jungle, and the Stony Tomb, where you have a high density of non-fire immune enemies. And when well geared, it can even efficiently handle Ancient Tunnels and Talrasha's tombs. Now, we'll make special mention here of the Wind Druid. This is the other top Druid build, and while the Wind Druid initially outperforms the Fire Druid, this is because the Wind Druid deals cold and physical damage, and in Hell you're running into a lot of fire immunes, so the Fire Druid struggles. But once that Fire Druid is geared, once you get a Ravenlore Helm, which reduces enemy fire resistance by 25%, a Phoenix Rune World Shield, which gives you another negative 28% to enemy fire resistance, and an Infinity Rune Word on your Mercenary, which gives you the Paladin Conviction Aura, which further reduces elemental resistances, then the Fisher Druid outperforms the Wind Druid in most circumstances. That takes us to number 7, the Lightning Sentry Assassin, aka the Trapsin, which is arguably the best assassin build in the game. It's easy to play, it deals massive damage while remaining relatively safe. It uses the 1-2 punch of Lightning Sentry to start killing enemies with lightning damage, and then Death Sentry to start exploding those corpses with massive corpse explosion, physical and fire damage. Also with patch 2.4, the removal of Death Sentry as a synergy for Lightning Sentry actually has a nice side effect. Now we can invest more into Fire Blast, which improves our overall damage mix even more. This build is beginner friendly, it doesn't require much gear to get started, so it really is the starter build of choice for assassins. And it has high mobility even before getting teleport, thanks to the Assassin's Burst of Speed skill. And while you shouldn't be getting hit too much with this build, even if you do, you're still pretty tanky. That said, if you really want to take this build as far as it can go, the gear can be quite rare and expensive. Next, coming in at number 6, we have the Blizzard Sorceress, aka the best starter build in the game. With little gear investment, it can easily farm some of the most popular bosses in the game, and its inbuilt teleport grants it incredible mobility without having to invest into an Enigma like other classes have to. Early on, this is the least gear-dependent character, so you can stack a lot of magic find without sacrificing kill speed. And as a cold damage build, you have excellent crowd control, but you don't deal too well with immunes. So your options are either skip cold immunes, or get a strong mercenary to deal with that, or have a low-level fireball, have a bit of a fire mix into your build to deal with those. This build's greatest weakness, however, is that it is quite squishy. You have to do a lot of kiting to stay alive. That takes us to number 5, the Poison Nova Necromancer, which is arguably the top Necromancer build. Yeah, we hear you screaming, Summon Necro is strong too, sure. But the Poison Nova Necro, when fully geared, does a huge amount of poison, fire, and physical damage in massive areas, easily able to clear screens of monsters. Poison Nova delivers the poison damage to create the first corpses you're going to use for the corpse explosion chain reaction, which will then bring in the fire and physical. In fact, between the amplified damage curse you're going to have that's going to increase your physical damage, and the lower resist curse you're going to have that's going to reduce enemy resistances to elements, and the further resist lowering conviction aura on the infinity that you're going to put on your mercenary, there's no monster immunity combination that can survive this. This is one of the best builds in the game at clearing screens of enemies, but it suffers at killing bosses. The playstyle also can be difficult to master, which we'll leave it to you whether it's a positive or a negative. If you're looking for a challenging playstyle, something to learn, improve, get better, feel accomplished, then that's a good thing. On to number 4, the Lightning Sorceress. Arguably the best sorceress build in the game. This versatile build can farm any area in Hell, and it excels at Bale runs, Arcane Sanctuary, and Ubers. When fully geared, it not only has extreme mobility, but also huge damage that can kill almost any enemy, while having the versatility to deal with both area damage and single target sniping. Now, while this build does deal exclusively lightning damage through the lightning and chain lightning skills, an infinity rune word on mercenary removes most immunity related issues you'll run into. Before that infinity though, this build is highly restricted in what areas it can farm. Among sorceress builds, Lightning Sorceress is not a great starter, but once you got it going, it's more versatile and more efficient than any other sorceress build in the late game. Then, Coming in at number 3 and number 2, we have a tie. And this is thanks to patch 2.4. Because 6 months ago, this would not have been a tie. We have 2 paladin builds that are very close. So let's talk first about the new kid on the block, and you're gonna automatically know who the other one is. So first, we got the Fist of the Heavens Paladin. This was buffed in patch 2.4 to become one of the best builds in the game. Now, the Fist of the Heavens skill, it's a classic paladin skill. It calls down a bolt of lightning from above to strike an enemy, and this could be all the way at the very edge of your screen. And then after that bolt hits, 4 holy bolts shoot out from that enemy, dealing big holy damage. Now, here's the catch. In the past, those holy bolts only hurt undead. So this really heavily restricted what areas you can farm with this build. But now in patch 2.4, the holy bolts harm undead and demons. So now the Chaos Sanctuary, which is pretty much all undead and demons, becomes one of the best farming spots in Diablo 2 for Fist of the Heavens, on top of already just being an excellent farming spot, period. Oh, and the other buff it got, Holy Bolt now pierces enemies, meaning it's not going to just stop at one enemy, it's going to go through and hit other enemies behind it. So again, big density zone like Chaos Sanctuary, you are now dealing incredibly larger amounts of damage than before. The biggest weakness of this build, however, is its boss killing capabilities. It's an area damage build, not a single target, and especially if you're going by just the classic traditional Fist of the Heavens build. You can run a variant that works in Smite to deal with bosses. But altogether, this build is great at sniping elites, it's great at destroying big packs of enemies, it has high mobility, a fast-paced playstyle, and now can farm quite a number of endgame zones efficiently. And hey, it's a shakeup and a meta that hasn't changed for years, decades, and so that takes us to the other paladin build that is basically tied with this one. You've all guessed what it is. Previously, it was superior to Fist of the Heavens, but now Fist of the Heavens is giving it a run for its money. The Blessed Hammer Paladin, aka the Hammerden. This was the undisputed champion of paladin builds for years. It's very tanky, it's easy to learn. It, back in the day, 20 years ago, was my first really good character. And there's almost nothing in the game that's immune to it because it deals magic damage. So it can tackle just about any content in the game. The Hammerden also uses the concentration aura to further buff the magic damage of its spinning hammers, and it uses Holy Shield to up its defense and its block chance. Now the catch here is that the hammers can be tricky to aim, and in very tight corridors your hammers are going to be basically constantly hitting the wall. They're not going to properly spiral out to hit the multiple targets, which is what it excels at. Also, before you get teleport, the build can feel clunky, but at the end of the day, there's a reason that just about anyone who's ever played Diablo 2 knows the term Hammerden, and I think each of us who has played multiplayer D2 has at some point been carried by a Hammerden. Alright, that takes us to number 1, the Lightning Fury Amazon, aka the Javazon. The best Amazon build in the game. This is the single best boss destroyer build in the game, while also being one of the best builds at clearing out hordes of enemies, making it incredibly versatile, and it can clear all late game content. On top of that, it's an easy build to run. Lightning Fury is your main damage skill, shredding screens of enemies with lightning bolts. And then Charged Strike is what you use for boss killing. This build is one of the strongest starter options thanks to the incredible power of Lightning Fury. However, for farming endgame zones in Hell, you will need an Infinity Rune Word on your Mercenary. That's how you deal with lightning immunes. But once you get that Infinity, lightning is the element with the fewest immunity-related issues. Okay, now that's our top 10, but as you can see, there's still some minutes left in this video, so what's happening now? Well, we're gonna cover 5 honorable mentions that aren't quite good enough to make it into our top 10, but are meta shakeups thanks to buffs in patch 2.4. So, honorable mention number 1, we have the Double Throw Barbarian. Prior to patch 2.4, making a throw barb was more of a fantasy than a class fantasy. But now buffs to Double Throw and Throw Mastery allow this build to deal significant damage and not run out of ammo every 5 seconds. A throw barb specializes in elite hunting and solo play, though it can farm almost anything anywhere, relying on physical damage. It is, however, a heavily gear-dependent build. On to honorable mention number 2, the Nova Sorceress. Nova got a damage buff this patch, allowing this build, which was a classic a long time ago, to return to a fragment of its former glory. Nova has a low skill point requirement, which allows you to work it into almost any kind of hybrid sorceress build you can think of, in case you want to run a dual element sorceress. But even a pure Nova Sorceress is viable now, with Energy Shield making her super tanky now that the mana burn bug has been fixed. You can also build up an incredibly fast cast rate, letting you spam Novas like crazy, and that is necessary for this build to perform optimally. The thing is though, at those super fast cast speeds, mana costs become an issue. But when equipped correctly, this is a very beginner-friendly build, and if you played back in the day when Nova Sorceress was a thing, it's a nice nostalgic trip to go back and kill cows with Nova again. On to honorable mention number 3, the Barbarian's Leap Attack build. Leap Attack has received massive buffs and quality of life improvements in patch 2.4. You jump a lot faster, no more slow-mo Space Jam jumps. The damage is ramped up significantly, it now deals area damage when it lands, and its attack rating is bumped up. The build is excellent at sniping elites, but it is superseded by the Berserk Barb at higher player counts. Leap Attack is basically the budget barbarian's version of Enigma, but it can't jump over walls. You can also stack a large amount of magic find on this build without sacrificing efficiency, and again, you can farm any area. On to honorable mention number 4, the Holy Fire Paladin. When offensive auras got buffed on the test server for patch 2.4, people were freaking out at the seemingly insane power of the Holy Fire Paladin, seeing it roast cows into brisket from half a screen away. This build is incredibly strong, up to about 5 players in the game. However, it requires very expensive endgame gear in order to operate at its full potential. But if you're willing to put in that investment, this build is very tanky, very fast, and very fun. Being a fire build though, with only a little bit of physical damage, its farming options are limited relative to other endgame builds. And on to our final honorable mention, and the last build that we're going to cover, the Summoner Druid. This build also got buffed in patch 2.4, notably by allowing us to have all of our wolves and bears summoned at the same time, so we can now finally really achieve that fantasy of the Summoner Druid. This build is very tanky, you have your pets running interference and tanking hits for you, and it's a beginner-friendly build because you just summon your pets and let them do their thing. But it doesn't deal a whole lot of damage, and the pet AI is kinda dumb. So that covers our top 10 and 5 honorable mentions. Again, folks, I encourage you, sound off in the comments, do you agree with these picks? Is there anything that you feel deserves to be on the list? Anything that doesn't? Also, what build or builds are you planning to run in the new ladder? Be sure to check out our slew of Diablo guides. First, the Ultimate Beginner's Guide, then we got leveling videos for all the classes. And stay tuned for more guides, including guides on how to farm all these items that you need for all these builds, and what's going on with mercenaries now in patch 2.4. Plus, we also have a general leveling guide for general leveling tips, how to make the most of your gold, what to buy, what is worth picking up, what rune words are worth going for, all that stuff. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more Diablo content.